that Friday night, did you leave by walking down the Rockingham driveway?
No,
Where was your car parked that night?
at Asford.
On Ashford on the street?
Yes,
It wasn't parked up against the garage door?
against the garage. No,
Okay. And Ashford, that's where the defendant usually parked the Bronco, is that correct?
it's a big.
Pardon
Yeah,
me?
he usually park his car there.
Okay. When you left Friday night, the defendant's Bronco wasn't parked on Rockingham, was it?
I didn't see it in Rockingham.
But he was home when you left, correct?
Yes, he is home.
Okay. Do you know where the defendant buys his socks?
What?
Where does
Excuse
he-
me.
Where does Mr. Simpson buy his socks?
I don't know. I don't ask him where he buy his socks.
Okay. Now, you say you spoke to the defendant that Sunday night at 8 p.m.?
Yes, I did.
Oh, by the way, you told us that the defendant went to Palm Springs on Memorial Day. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he didn't go there with Paula Barbieri. He went there to meet her. Is that correct?
I don't know, but I know they are together on Memorial Weekend. But I don't know if he drive by himself or he will meet Paula there. All I know they are together.
Okay. Well, do you know whether or not he and Paula Barbieri had a big fight in Palm Springs?
Sustained. Sustained.
Well, did you have a habit of discussing with the defendant his personal relationships?
Overruled.
Discussing his relationship, no.
Okay. So you wouldn't know.
Overruled. She's indicated she didn't discuss his personal relationships.
Did you know the defendant in 1989?
No.
And did you know him in October of 1993?
No.
Let's have a few more questions, Your Honor. If I can have one moment. As part of keeping the house clean, you would clean all the pictures, right? You dust the pictures off?
Sometimes if they need to be dust, I will do that.
Okay. Now, you understand that the jury had a jury view of 360 North Rockingham, is that correct?
Yes, I do. I'm there.
Now, you made some additions or some changes.
Sustained.
Is that due to foundation or?
I'm going to sustain the objection at this point.
Is that any questions regarding the jury view and preparation? Should I come up and?
With the court reporter. All right, thank you, counsel. Proceed.
When you spoke to the defendant that night on the telephone, how long did your conversation last?
Like maybe a minute,
About 1 minute?
maybe something like.
Okay. So it was a very brief conversation, correct?
Yes,
And you did most of the talking during that conversation?
yes,
Okay. And that's because you were the one making the request, is that correct?
yes,
Okay. So you didn't have a lot of time to assess his demeanor over the telephone, correct?
World.
Is that correct?
Can you repeat the question, please?
You didn't have a lot of time to assess his demeanor while you were talking to him over the telephone, correct?
I know that he's the same way that I usually talk to. So even it's a short time or a long time, he's the same person that I usually talk to.
Okay, so he sounded like the same person that you
Yes.
usually talk to? But obviously you couldn't see his facial expression at the time, right?
World.
Right?
You cannot see his face expression, but you can hear how he talk.
And obviously you didn't know what he was thinking at the time, correct?
Sustain. Sustain.
Okay. When you returned to Rockingham the next morning around 10 o'clock, you weren't allowed to go onto the property, is that correct?
Yes,
But you were allowed to stand out front, is that right?
in front of the property, no. The police officer told me right away that I cannot get in. I said, why? Because I see the.
Okay, so you weren't. Is that okay?
Proceed.
Okay. Right. So you didn't see the police when they recovered items from the back of the house?
World.
Did you see the police recover an item of evidence behind the house?
Recover item of evidence inside.
World.
Excuse me. Can you
Yes.
repeat the question?
Did you see the police recover an item of evidence from behind the house?
I saw some actions in and out of the house. There's some people coming in and out, and I saw a big van outside the property.
Just one last question, or two. With regard to the defendant's bed, will he leave his bed unmade when he got out of it?
He will.
Is that
He will.
right?
Unmade, yes.
Okay. He would leave it unmade so that you could make it. Is that right?
Yes,
And is that what you normally did?
yes.
And would he, strike that, and after taking a shower, would he always hang up the towel on the rack?
Yes.
He wouldn't leave a towel laying around on the edge of the bathtub, would he?
No,
He wouldn't leave a towel on the floor, would he?
no.
That wouldn't be normal for him, would it?
He will hang it on the door of the shower room.
Now, when you talked to the defendant on the phone that night, he didn't complain to you about his arthritis, did he?
On June 12th?
Yes.
No,
He didn't tell you that he was in pain, did he?
no, he did not.
I'd rather just end. By the way, did you ever go behind the house? That is behind Arnell's room and Cato's room?
I go sometimes.
Okay. You go back there sometimes?
Yes,
Is there an air conditioning unit back there?
yes.
Now, if you follow the pathway behind the house, does it lead to an area where there's dirt and grass and stuff?
Sustain.
That's all.
Mr. Cochran, anything more?
Yes, very. Yeah?
Proceed.
Just a few questions on that, Your Honor. With regard to this card that Mr. Darden showed you, the field interrogation card, you answered just the questions the police officer asked you, isn't that correct?
Yes, I do.
And you told this police officer the truth, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
And if the police officer had asked you if you were at Knott's Berry Farm or where you were, you would have told him, right?
I will tell them where I am.
All right. If the police officer had asked you if you asked permission to stay out, not come up that night, you would have told him that, right?
Yes.
It is.
But
Mr. Gordon, keep your voice down, would you please?
Now, with regard to the clothes that were in the hamper, I saw some, excuse me, Your Honor. I saw some panties.
Overruled.
I saw some panties in and around the washing machine. Mr. Simpson never wore any panties around that house, did he?
No.
And you know that those clothes and that hamper, that was Arnell's clothes, isn't that
Yes,
correct?
they are.
And Arnell would wash her clothes inside the house there, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And would Cato Kalin also wash his clothes in the house also?
Yes.
Now, does Mr. Simpson shave every day, as far as you know?
I think yes.
Now, with regard to, you were asked some questions about cleaning the house, and I believe you indicated to Mr. Darden that you had kind of a routine and you clean various parts of the house on various days in the week. Is that correct?
Yes.
With regard to the foyer area of the Rockingham residence, do you recall on what days of the week that you cleaned that foyer area prior to the time you left on Friday, June the 10th?
I mop it maybe around Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right, Tuesday, Wednesday, early in the week?
Yes, early in the week.
All right, and you had not cleaned that area after that, is that correct?
I just sweep it, not mopping it.
All right. Now, on Friday night, you said that Mr. Simpson had come back home from out of town,
Yes, yes,
and you stayed there to prepare dinner?
yes,
And did he have a guest there that night?
yes.
Who was that guest?
Paula?
Paula Barberi?
Yes, Paula Barbieri.
And did they have dinner that night?
Yes.
Or were they still there together when you left?
Paula need to leave because she's going to attend like a prayer meeting, something like that.
What kind of meeting?
Prayer meeting?
Prayer?
Yes.
Prayer, like as in prayer?
Yes.
Okay. She's leaving for a prayer meeting?
Yes.
We have an interpreter in the jury here. Proceed.
Oh, thank you. So, what, excuse me, Your Honor. What time did Paula leave for this prayer meeting?
Before I,
What time did Paula leave for the prayer meeting?
It's irrelevant, really.
Well, no, what I want to know from a standpoint of sequence, Your Honor.
All right. What
Thank you, Your
time
Honor.
did she leave?
Foundational.
before I left that night.
So you left at 9:30, and Paula had left for the prayer meeting before that.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, after dinner.
Okay. Now, with regard to your room, premises there, your room is downstairs, is that correct?
Objection, this exceeds the scope.
Well, I have just one or two questions just in this area. Thank you. Your room is downstairs, is that correct?
Yes.
And, Ms. Guarin, is there a door to the side of the house right near your room?
Yes, in between the laundry room and my room.
And can you come in on that side of the house if you have a key and get in that door?
Yes.
And what kind of key is needed to get in that door?
Master key.
And how many master keys were there in June of 1994?
There's only 2.
And who had those master keys?
I have 1 and Mr. Simpson have 1.
If you had a master key, you could come inside that door, is that right?
Yes.
Did you ever have occasion to talk with West Tech at all on when you were going to be off and Mr. Simpson would be out of town?
I didn't.
It does. Sustain.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think that's all I have at this point, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Anything else, Mr. Darden?
Let's go back to the cleaning habit for one moment. Had you seen a spill or spot on the floor, you'd have cleaned that up, right?
Yes, I will.
Okay. That's all, thank you.
All right, Ms. Guarin, thank you very much. You're excused.
You're welcome.
All right, let's take our mid-afternoon break at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, please, oh, Ms. Guarin, you're excused. Thank you. All right, remember all my admonitions to you. We'll take about 15, okay? All right, let's have the jury, please. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Scheck.
Yes, Your Honor. I have a motion in limine with respect to Detective Mulldorfer's testimony. We intend to call her for a very limited purpose, and that is to establish that she was conducting an investigation of possible violation of OPG rules, that during the course of her investigation, she determined that there was a system for logging who goes in and out in the area where the Bronco was being held, that information came to her attention that several detectives and officers had been in and out, but were not logged in. She went to, she could not ascertain who those individuals were. She did ascertain that an SID person, Mr. Fung, had gone in and out. She then had a conversation with Mr. Fung concerning the times he went in and out.
That is not logged.
I'm sorry?
That is not in the log?
Yeah, there was no log of who went in and out. That's the point that I want to establish from her, that she had a report that certain officers and detectives, came in and out. She couldn't ascertain who those were. The only person she asked was Detective Van Adder. And that she did ascertain that Mr. Fung had been in and out, and that she asked Mr. Fung what he did, and then he gave a statement to her that on July 6th he went to the Bronco, looked at it to refresh his memory for court, and did not remove anything from it, which was a prior inconsistent statement that I'm seeking to introduce in terms of Mr. Fung's testimony.
What did he testify to? on direct?
Mr. Fung testified that on July 6th, he went to the Bronco at the request of Ms. Clark for purposes of seeing whether or not there were stains on the door sill of the Bronco, that, and he then performed a presumptive test. I'm sure you don't forget that, because that got us into some trouble on that ruling. And he testified that he performed a presumptive test on a stain from that Bronco at that time. And I asked him specifically...
All right, and what did he say that's inconsistent to Detective Mulldorfer?
Well, what he said to Detective Mulldorfer is that he went there just to refresh his memory for court, and he didn't remove anything from the vehicle. And I asked him in the course of questioning whether he removed anything for purposes of performing the presumptive test, which of course he had to do, and he said yes. So those are the points.
So in other words, all you want to get from Detective Mulldorfer is, A, she conducted an investigation as far as the security there and determined that there was no system for logging in officers in and out.
They had a system, but they didn't follow it. That was her conclusion. And that there were
And then
various
this-
people in and out of there she couldn't run down. She ran down Fung. She spoke to Fung.
But
This
how
is-
does she determine there are various people who came in and out?
She had a report, she got information from Mr. Jones, who had brought her in, that, to quote her report, that several people, officers and detectives, had been in and out, but they hadn't been logged in. She attempted to find out who those individuals were, and the only person that she inquired about that to, she tells me, is Detective Van Adder, and that was it.
All right, I'll hear from the people.
And the point of this ruling is that I'm not going into anything about Mr. Mraz and what he said and the reasons that the city attorney did have or didn't have for bringing us a complaint against Mr. Mraz and all that stuff that's been gone into. If they choose to bring it on the rebuttal case, but that's not the purpose of bringing her here.
Mr. Darden?
Well, we have a couple of objections, Your Honor. First of all, as to anything that Mr. Jones may have told Detective Mulldorfer, that's hearsay. That's hearsay, and it's being offered for the truth of the matter stated. Counsel was offering that hearsay statement to establish that there were multiple persons that went in and out of the Bronco. That's hearsay. And Detective Mulldorfer did attempt to run that down, and she determined that that was not true. And she also determined, I believe, that Bob Jones had no basis in fact for making that statement as well. In any event, that's clearly hearsay. We object to that, and he shouldn't be allowed to go into it. As far as the impeachment of Dennis Fung is concerned, Dennis Fung did not tell Detective Mulldorfer that he just went to the Bronco on July 6th to refresh his recollection. That's not what he said. He said he went there to refresh his memory for court, but he didn't say that that was the only reason. He never said that was the only reason, and this is not, that statement is not inherently inconsistent with what Dennis Fung stated here on the witness stand. In addition, on the issue of whether or not Mr. Fung removed anything from the Bronco on July 6th, we agree that he told Mulldorfer that he did not remove anything on July 6th, but he also told the jury that he did not. He told the jury that he only did a presumptive test, that he did not take any samples, that he did not remove any physical evidence. That is not inconsistent. There was no inconsistency there, and counsel should be precluded from dragging that hearsay into the case. As far as the issue of the reasons for the investigation, counsel's going to ask the witness if she conducted an investigation of possible violations of OPG rules. Well, I think I have a right to go into what those violations were. What triggered that investigation? And what triggered that investigation is Mr. Mraz, an employee, a thief, and someone who admitted to having lied when confronted with having removed things from the defendant's Bronco. We should be allowed to go into that. They can't just ask these questions and then expect us not to go into the issues, to develop the issues, and allow the jury to.
Well, let's assume that you asked the question then on cross-examination, what was the genesis of the investigation? It was the allegation that one of the employees, a John Mraz, removed items from the Bronco automobile. Is that correct? Is that what the question and answer is likely to be? And doesn't that pretty much cover it?
It's cross-examination, Your Honor.
Doesn't that pretty much cover what's
Well,
relevant?
I don't think it pretty much covers it at all, because I think we have to get down to the specific issues, and how they relate to.
Theft of items from a car that's supposed to be held in some type of security. That's pretty clear, isn't it?
Yeah, that's clear to me.
All right.
But can I
Two questions.
And can I interject this as well? Why is this even relevant? Why is it this detective's investigation, days, many days, well beyond July 6th, let alone June 13 or June 14? Why is this even relevant? Why are we wasting our time on this? This doesn't prove or disprove or establish any material fact that this jury needs to have before it to
The whole
determine his
point
guilt.
that Mr. Scheck is trying to establish is that multiple persons and persons unknown had access to the Bronco, and that it was in an unlocked state for a significant period of time. I think that's the point.
It's all hearsay, Your Honor. Mulldorfer wasn't there. She doesn't work there. The only way she would know that is if someone told her. And in fact, I don't think Mr. Scheck knows that. And what he's going to do is interject that notion into this trial by innuendo. There's no proof of that multiple persons accessed that Bronco. That is beyond what Mr. Mraz has already told us.
All right. Well, but do you concede? I'm assuming you're not conceding the inconsistency of any statement by Mr. Fung. But if it were an inconsistent statement, then Detective Mulldorfer, you'll concede, is competent to testify to any statements by Mr. Fung to her.
Yeah. If the court finds him inconsistent, yes,
All right.
with his testimony. And if she's
Right.
going to testify to anything, that ought to be it.
Mr. Scheck.
Yes,
What concerns me about Mr. Darden's argument is that Detective Mulldorfer's opinions are based upon statements from other persons. And
Well-
is she competent to testify as to who had access to that
well, I don't think.
Bronco? Wouldn't it be Bob Jones?
Well, it seems to me, Your Honor, that what she ascertained during the course of her investigation is that they had a system for logging in names, but that system was not implemented. It's
Then by
something
that,
that's
if I
required.
use that analogy, though, then Detective Lang is able to give his opinion as to who committed this homicide.
Oh, no, I think that this is simply an investigation. She's going to testify that they ought to have a system in place. They had a system in
trade?
place. No, they
Yeah,
ought to have
I
had
will.
a system
I'm
in place.
concerned about the competence to testify that other people had access.
No, then it's by inference. The point is that she was able to ascertain that there is a system of logging that is there to be followed, and it was not followed in this instance. Mr. Fung was not even logged in on this system, and there's no dispute that he went to the vehicle twice during the course of this. And my point is simply, following up what the court indicated, is I want to establish what the rules and procedures are for storage of these vehicles, what systems were in place, what systems were not followed in terms of logging people in and out, to establish access of several people, or possibly a multiplicity of people, and that she had information that there were other people besides Fung. It was her responsibility to try to track them down, and she could not. I mean, he's free to establish by asking her, who did you make inquiry with to try to find out who these people were, and are you satisfied that you've established it was no one? I don't object to him going into that in terms of the scope of the direct. My concern is, I don't even mind him asking her whether she was there as one or two questions, as the court indicates, as part of her investigation. She was investigating a few things. The rules, were the rules followed for storing the vehicle properly, and as part of that, whether or not a permittee, Mr. Mraz, had violated a rule by committing a theft. That was all part of this investigation.
He's not a permittee, he's an agent of the permittee.
Good. She told me something. I'm only going on what she said. But my point is simply this. I'm not going into the whole investigation of Mraz and everything
All right,
else.
let's get back
That's
to
my
more,
concern.
Let's get back to the more fundamental question, though. She is an investigator who
Yes.
interviewed witnesses. So you're saying that she should be able to come in and give us opinions based upon hearsay.
I think she's competent to come in, and it's non-hearsay testimony for her to establish, A, what the rules are, B, what systems were in
All right.
place.
Let's assume she's an expert in the area of OPG garages, so she can testify to the rules and regulations that are required. I take that as I accept that. But whether or not those rules were followed, she only knows that on the basis of talking to other people, nothing that she witnessed or is competent to testify herself to.
Well, I don't think that Fung wasn't recorded in. We know that the log of she was able to ascertain that no log was kept.
Do you have the log?
There was no log. That's the point.
All right, that's something she can testify to. Did
That's
she
right.
go there? Did she ask to see the log? Was a log produced? There was no log.
That's right.
Is that a violation of the OPG procedure? Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Well, and the final thing, and the additional point, is, did you ascertain whether or not there were individuals who did go to that vehicle who were not logged in, or there was information? Did you attempt to investigate that?
Well, if there's no log, how can she possibly ascertain that?
Wait.
other than-
I'm discussing this with Mr. Scheck.
I'm only trying to get from her what she heard and what she did, in terms of trying to, I think it's
You got it.
admissible for the fact that it was said. No, she was told that officers and detectives were seen going in and out of the vehicle. She then conducted an investigation to determine who. He's free to bring out what she did and didn't do. She went to Detective Van Adder. She spoke with him. As far as I understand, that's all she did. And
All right.
it came to her attention that there were unaccounted for people, which is a violation of the rules. That's within the purview of her investigation.
All right, you're going one leap too far here. You can put in that she's in charge of investigating OPG garages. She can testify to the rules and regulations. She can testify that she went to Vertel's to see what the logging process was. It's your representation that she's going to testify that there was no logging system in place.
There was one in place, but it wasn't followed. In other words, there was nothing recorded on the logs.
That she examined the logs.
Well, I'll have to ask her that specifically, but I'm going on a report on what she just told me.
All right, did we subpoena the log?
Well,
Wait, Mr. Darden, please, I'm going to,
I thought it
This'll
was
go-
an open
this-
question.
no, this will go a lot quicker if I get to talk to one person at a time. Do you have the log?
I don't believe we have a log. I don't know whether there was a log or not. She indicated there was no logs in, one way or the other.
No logs, period.
No,
She will say there is no log.
She testified to an absence of the record. I can ascertain that. If we can bring her in.
Let's bring her in. No, wait a minute.
The last question I intend to ask her is, was she in the Bronco? Did she look in the console area, and did she notice any blood?
Personal knowledge, not a problem.
Right.
All right, Detective Mulldorfer is here. Come on forward, Detective. All right, Mr. Scheck, do you want to ask Detective Mulldorfer what she had?
Detective Mulldorfer informs me that they have forms for logging people in. There's a system set up if they were to use it, but she ascertained that they didn't use it and they didn't log anybody in.
How is this record kept? Is it a loose leaf notebook or what?
They have I believe they just have similar to that, or a clipboard with a paper with lines, the names and divisions, just real basic information. There was no log. That is the way they teach it. There was no log.
There's a form, so there's a form but not a log. There's a form for
And none were kept at the relevant time in question, or for a specific time period? Because I assume that once this was brought to their attention, they started a log.
Yes.
At what point, Detective? At what point did they start complying with the log requirement?
On August 29th is the first entry of their log that they now keep. August 29th, 1994.
So, to your knowledge, there's no log entries between June 15th and August 29th.
I just asked them if they had anything logged in for that vehicle, or if they logged in any of the people that went in to look at the vehicle, and they said no, they didn't log anyone in relative to that vehicle.
And who told you that?
Mr. Jones.
All right. Detective, why don't you go ahead and have a seat? All right, Mr. Scheck, do you have any other comment?
No, I'm just seeking the court's guidance on whether they can go into,
Mr. Scheck, I think you can establish the point that no log was kept, but I don't think Detective Mulldorfer is the person who's going to be able to do that for you.
well,
Because the basis of her information is what Bob Jones told her. That's hearsay.
then we'll take it a step at a time.
I'm
In
sorry?
other words, we'll take it a step and a witness at a time. I can certainly establish that she had a conversation without telling us the content with respect to who went in and out. No, not the
No,
content.
that she conducted an investigation as to who had access to the Bronco. Sure, she can tell us that. That's the whole reason she's here. All right. As far as Detective Mulldorfer is concerned, then, what I will allow is who she is, what she does, what her responsibilities were regarding OPG garages, that there are rules and regulations that govern OPG garages, which includes keeping a log, and that she conducted an investigation over at Vertel's. I think the prosecution is entitled to bring out the fact that this investigation, the genesis of this, was John Mraz and that situation, and that during the course of this investigation, it's your representation that she actually looked in the Bronco.
Yes.
All right, she can testify to what she saw or did not see there, and she can testify as to who she interviewed with regards to the procedures. And she can testify to the statement by Mr. Funk.
She can't testify to the conclusions.
No,
Okay.
that's hearsay. What
what-
somebody else told her about the log is hearsay.
Okay.
And if she
And what-
didn't see the log and examine it herself, but Bob Jones is the person who has to come in and say that this log was kept in this manner or not kept in this manner, depending on what the answer might be.
Okay, how about the fact that she saw a criminal filing?
That's neither here nor there at this point. Because then we're going to have to drag in the city attorney to tell us why they didn't charge Mr. Mraz. And that's, yeah.
Mr. I mean, just the fact that she recommended a filing. We handle that in two questions.
I don't intend to bring it out. If they think that's relevant, they can bring it out in the rebuttal case. That is extremely complicated and I think unfairly prejudicial. I have no
Well,
intent.
I will see, let's see how it goes in the context of what's elicited on direct.
Well, that's the whole reason for bringing this motion, because I don't want to go into all of that. I think it's a diversion from.
I don't
what
want to go
bring
into it either. I just told you what I'm going to allow.
up. Okay.
all right? But
Thank
they
you.
are entitled to ask a few questions. What was the reason you were there to conduct this investigation,
Absolutely.
period?
No problem.
All right, let's go.
Could she be declared an adverse witness?
Why?
Well,
I think it's
So I can-
premature
all right.
at this point. Mulldorfer.
All right. Take a deeper, Your Honor. We'll testify before going.
All right, let the record reflect that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. And Mr. Scheck, you may call the defense's next witness.
So defense calls Detective Mulldorfer.
Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the class affidavit before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please have a seat at the witness stand. State and spell your first and last names for the record.
My name is Kelly Mulldorfer. That's KellyMulldorfer.
Mr. Scheck.
Detective Mulldorfer, what is your present position?
I'm a detective for the Los Angeles Police Department.
And where are you assigned now?
I'm currently assigned to Legal Affairs Division.
And in July of 1994, what was your assignment?
I was assigned to Commission Investigation Division, Enforcement Section.
And is that the what's known as the LA Police Commission?
Yes, it's part of the Police Commission.
And as part of your assignment at the LA Police Commission in July of 1994, did you have any jurisdictions over what are known as OPG, official police garages?
Yes,
And were you assigned to conduct an investigation of at the Vertel's garage in July of 1994?
yes,
July 13th in particular?
July 13th.
And this investigation embraced the violation of OPG rules concerning storage of vehicles?
That was part of the investigation, yes.
And the other part of the investigation concerned an allegation of theft against Mr. Mraz.
Yes,
All rules foundational.
Now, are there rules, official rules governing how official police garages are supposed to store vehicles?
yes, there are.
And, Your Honor, I'd like to put on the Elmo Defense 1253, the impound form.
Yes. Do you have a copy of that for Detective Mulldorfer?
I think she has one with her.
Do you recognize the document?
Yes.
All right. Mr.
Now-
Scheck?
Yes, I'd like to go up to the upper left-hand corner to the box that's entitled Give Special Care. Now, that box entitled "Give Special Care." What's the significance of that box, Detective?
That box is generally marked with an X or a check mark to let the garage know that it's supposed to be handled differently than the other cars.
All right, and is the term "hold" the one that's used? Hold for different purposes?
Yeah, well, a hold can be placed on the vehicle without it being an evidentiary hold.
Right. And the significance of an evidentiary hold is what for purposes of subsequent action by the police department?
A vehicle that's held for evidence or given an evidentiary hold is placed into the evidentiary hold area of the official police garage that they're required to maintain.
All right, and is that because there are certain restrictions that are supposed to be placed on anyone going into that vehicle?
This is leading, Your Honor. Objection.
Are there restrictions that are supposed to be placed by the official police garage on access to the vehicle if that box is checked off to give special care?
Same objection.
I'm sorry, could you
Sure.
ask that again?
Are there restrictions, are there rules that an official police garage is supposed to follow if the special care box is checked off?
Yes.
And what are those rules?
One rule is that it has to be placed into an area cordoned off from the other area. It has to be a covered area free from rain and wind and snow and things that might interfere with whatever evidence is in the car, on the car, like prints or something.
And that would include blood within the car?
Yes,
That would include trace evidence within the car?
yes.
What about access by people? What are the rules with respect to access by people if the give special care box is checked?
It limits the access to the to police and scientific investigation. The people that work at the tow yard should not enter that area or touch the vehicle in any way.
What about going inside the vehicle?
No, not unless they're directed by LAPD personnel to do so.
In terms of who is allowed into a vehicle if it's being held for evidentiary purposes, is there some kind of rules that are supposed to be followed with respect to making records of who can go in and out?
They're supposed to maintain a log of people that go into the vehicle and remove property or remove something from the vehicle. There should be a notation,
Well,
either on a log that they have generated themselves, or on the records for the vehicle. They have each vehicle has a card, and they also make notations on that card so they can go to it and see what went on with that vehicle.
Right. So either through the card or through a log, there's supposed to be some paperwork indicating who went into a vehicle that is being held for possible evidentiary purposes when the give special care box is checked.
Yes.
Now, when you were assigned the investigation of Feralis, did you attempt to ascertain how many people had been in and out of Mr. Simpson's Bronco?
Yes.
Did you attempt to ascertain whether or not any records had been kept?
Yes.
Did you attempt to ascertain whether Feralis had a system in place which they could have used to record who went in and out of the Bronco?
Yes.
Did Feralis have such a system?
No.
No. In your report, did you indicate that they did have such a system?
They
Go ahead.
they
I call your attention.
they had the system by virtue of the ability to do it. In other words, they could have put that notation on the card. They could have kept a log. They do have a log that they keep for people that go into any vehicle and remove property. They didn't make any of those notations regarding this vehicle.
And in the course of your investigation, did you ascertain for the first time when a log began to be kept as to who would be going in and out of the Bronco?
On August 29, 1994, they began a more accurate log.
Well, prior to August 24th, you said, was there any log?
29th, August 29th.
August 29th. Was there any log about who went in and out of that Bronco?
I was told that there was not.
Now, did you have a conversation, who is Bob Jones?
He's a general manager of Vertel's.
All right. And without telling us what he said, did you have a conversation with him about the number of people
Objection, hearsay.
that might have gone in and out of the Bronco,
Yes,
based on his investigation?
yes,
And did you attempt to ascertain how many people had gone in and out of the Bronco?
yes.
And who else did you talk to besides Mr. Jones?
About who had gone in and out of the vehicle?
Yes.
I spoke to Detective Van Adder.
All right. And did there come a time when you conducted an interview with Dennis Fung about the Bronco?
Yes,
And did Mr. Fung tell you that he had gone to the Bronco on July 6th?
yes,
And did you ascertain that there was no record of Mr. Fung going to the Bronco on July 6th?
Vertel's didn't have a record of that.
And did Mr. Fung tell you that the reason he went to the Bronco on July 6th was to refresh his memory for court?
Yes, I believe so.
He didn't tell you that he had been sent by Miss Clark.
Objection. Call for hearsay.
Sustained.
All right. Did Mr. Fung tell you
Same
that...
objection.
Different question. Did
And
Ms.
misleading, Your Honor.
No.
Let's hear the question.
Did Mr. Fung tell you that he did not remove anything from the Bronco? Not a blood stain or anything?
Objection.
Overruled.
He said he didn't remove anything that day.
Now, Detective Mulldorfer, did there come a time when you yourself inspected the Bronco?
Yes,
And who were you with?
I was with Mr. Jones.
And do you recall which day this was?
No, I don't.
But it would be sometime in the month of July?
It was sometime between the time that I got the investigation, which would have been July 13th, and when they began their log.
All right. And when you went into the Bronco, did you inspect the side pocket panels on both the driver's side and the passenger's side?
I looked into the side door panel, yes,
On the driver's side?
both sides.
Both sides. And did you look in the direction and see the console?
Yes,
All right. And when you looked at the console, do you remember seeing any blood there?
I wasn't looking for that, so I don't recall if I did, and I don't recall if I didn't.
Well, when you looked at the console, do you remember seeing any blood there?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
No, I don't have any specific recollection.
I have nothing further.
Darden?
Detective, are you telling us that there was no blood on the console?
No,
You weren't investigating the issue of whether or not there was blood on the console, is that correct?
yeah, that was not the focus of my investigation.
The focus of your investigation was Mr. Miraz, correct?
Yes,
You had learned that he had stolen some items from the defendant's vehicle, correct?
yes,
And the items that you learned about were credit receipts, is that right?
yes,
Your investigation was focusing on the theft of items of paper.
Yes,
Your investigation wasn't focused on biological evidence, was it?
no,
You weren't investigating the issue of whether or not Dennis Fung tested the Bronco on July 6th for blood or blood stains.
no,
As a matter of fact, you never asked him if he conducted a presumptive test for blood on the Bronco on July 6th, did you?
no, I never did.
You didn't ask Dennis Fung anything at all about any biological test he may have performed on the Bronco on July 6th, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell Dennis Fung what the focus of your investigation was?
Yes, I did.
You told him it was about the theft of paper?
I asked him specifically about the receipts.
And when you asked him if he'd taken anything from the Bronco, you were asking him if he'd taken any documents. Is that right?
Yes,
Overruled.
And that was the entire focus of your conversation with him. Is that right?
yes,
And was that interview conducted over the telephone?
yes, it was.
You called him?
Yes, I did.
Did you know Dennis Fung prior to that?
No,
And you identified yourself as a police officer?
yes,
And he had to take your word for that, didn't he?
yes,
You could have been a reporter for all he knew, right?
that's possible.
You don't know whether or not Dennis Fung was holding back on the information that he had, do you?
Stay.
Did you attempt to ascertain whether or not Mr. Fung had been in the Bronco on June 14th?
June 14th?
Yes.
No, I never asked. I don't believe I asked him about that.
Okay. Your investigation focused on what happened to the Bronco after it arrived at hotels, correct?
Yes,
Okay. It didn't focus on anything having to do with the Bronco and what may have been done with it while it was at the print shed, right?
yes, I specifically didn't touch on that area.
During your investigation, did you speak to Mr. Mraz?
Yes,
Your investigation didn't reveal any breach in security at the print shed.
no,
OPG rules require that vehicles marked special handling be kept in a certain area at Vertels. Is that correct?
that's correct.
And the area has to be cordoned off,
Yes,
and the area has to be covered
yes,
and free from rain, wind, and snow.
yes.
What date was it, if you recall, that you saw the Bronco at Vertels?
I don't recall. It was very early in my investigation.
But you saw the vehicle inside a structure, is that right?
Yes,
And that structure was covered, wasn't it?
yes,
That structure was cordoned off.
yes, it was.
That structure was free from rain
Yes,
and wind
yes,
and snow.
yes,
That vehicle was being kept in a secured area, is that correct?
fairly secure.
Well, it was secure from the public, correct?
Yes, it was.
Now, Mr. Mraz was an employee of Vertels, is that right?
Yes,
And so what we're really talking about here is an issue of employee theft, aren't we?
yes,
There's no OPG rule that would preclude Mr. Mraz from being inside that structure, is there?
no,
And when you saw the Bronco inside that shed, was it roped off?
yes, it was.
When you looked inside the Bronco, you weren't looking for blood.
No,
You weren't looking for evidence that might connect the defendant to a murder.
no,
You're only looking to see if the credit slips that you had heard about were inside the Bronco, right?
That's correct.
And that was it.
That's it.
Now, you've told us that the impound form is not marked special handling, correct?
Correct.
If that vehicle had been delivered to Vertel's, had the vehicle been delivered to Vertel's and then placed in that secure area within an hour of its arrival at Vertel's, would that be in conformance with OPG rules?
Well, they can place it there themselves, or a phone call can have the vehicle placed there.
The main thing is that it is stored there, is that correct?
Yes.
And it was stored there.
Yes.
Thank you, that's all.
Mr. Scheck?
Detective Mulldorfer, when you spoke to Mr. Fung, you told him you were a detective from the LA Police Commission.
Yes.
Was there any doubt in your mind that he didn't think you were a member of the press?
Sustained.
Did he answer your questions fully?
I was satisfied with his answers.
Did you inquire about a visit he had to the Bronco on an occasion other than July 6th?
I believe I asked him how many times he'd been to Vertel's and on what dates.
And did you get the details of what he did on those occasions?
Overruled.
I asked him if, while he was at the vehicle, or in the vehicle, or whatever he was doing there, if he removed or noticed the paperwork that I was interested in.
Did you ascertain that on June 28th he removed a shovel and a towel in a plastic bag?
Sustained.
What did you ascertain about June 28th? He opened up.
Sustained.
Did you attempt to find out the particulars of what he did on his visits to the vehicle?
No.
No.
No, I only asked him if, while he was at the vehicle or in the vehicle, if he noticed or removed any of the paperwork that I was interested in. That was the
Well-
crux of what I asked him.
In your investigation, did you not note down the details of precisely what he did on his searches or his visits to the vehicle?
Regarding the visit on the 28th where he removed the property, that information was gleaned from the property report that I got from Detective Van Adder.
You mean you didn't ask him about what he removed on the 28th?
No.
You don't know?
No,
The answer was no.
I asked him,
Excuse me, hold on. Proceed.
Yes?
No, there's no question pending, counsel.
I'm sorry?
There's no
Did you
question.
ask him what he removed on the 28th?
Overruled. You can answer that yes or no. Did you ask him?
not in that form, but yes, I did ask him.
Now, Mr. Darden asked you questions about the purpose of your investigation. Now, wasn't one of the purposes of your investigation to determine whether or not Vertel's had adequate security for the holding of vehicles for purposes of evidentiary investigations?
Initially, that was one of the rules we were looking at.
And that's covered by Rule 14 and Rule 12?
Board Rule 12, yes, having
Right.
to do with evidentiary vehicles.
And you came to a conclusion,
Sustained.
all right? Did you recommend that Vertel's be closed down because
Sustained. Sustained.
were, from your investigation of the measures taken to hold the vehicle at Vertel's for purposes of evidentiary investigation, were their procedures adequate?
Sustained. No.
Mr. Darden asked you questions about protection that this vehicle had from rain and sleet and other environmental elements. You remember that?
Yes.
What about people? Are there not regulations in place to limit the number of people that can enter a vehicle that is being held for possible trace evidence investigation?
Yes.
And would you not agree that one of the key protections when you're holding a vehicle for future criminalistic investigation is to keep a record of who goes into the vehicle?
It would be helpful.
It would be helpful, would it not, when trying to do subsequent tests on biological evidence recovered from such a vehicle?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Would it not be helpful to know exactly who had access to the vehicle if one is going to be conducting future criminalistic tests such as PCR DNA tests?
Well, I don't know what those tests involve, but it would have been helpful to me to know who had been in the vehicle.
And if one is conducting trace evidence investigations of a vehicle, would it not be helpful to know what people might have been in it?
Well, I guess, again, I don't know what those tests are. I don't know what they involve.
But it would be just fair to say that from your point of view in terms of conducting an investigation of the security system at Vertel's, without knowing the details of these future tests, it's important to have records of who goes in and out.
Yes.
And you did the best you could with what you had to determine who went in and out.
Yes.
But the only person that you were able to find out about was Mr. Fung.
Yes.
But you did have conversations with others attempting to find out whether other people had access to that vehicle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Darden?
Detective, you're not an expert in PCR,
No.
DNA,
No.
conducting investigations for trace evidence?
No.
You ever swatched a blood stain?
Never.
You have no expertise in any of these areas, do you?
No, I do not.
Detective, thank you very much. Next witness.
proceed, Your Honor.
Let's proceed.
Thank you. The defense will next call Detective Bert Luper.
Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court should be the truth and nothing but nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please have a seat at the witness stand and state and spell your first and last names for the record.
Yes, ma'am. My first name is Adalberto, Adalberto. Last name is Luper, Luper.
Good afternoon, Detective Luper.
Good afternoon, sir.
Nice tie.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Detective Luper, you're a member of the Los Angeles Police Department, aren't you?
I am, yes, sir.
And how long have you been so employed, sir?
23 years, sir.
And you're presently assigned to the Robbery Homicide Division?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And Detective Luper, are you one of the investigators assigned to this case?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And when were you first assigned to this case?
I was assigned on January 13th, probably around 8 o'clock in the morning.
Was that January 13th or June 13th?
June 13th, I apologize.
Is that the June 13th of 1994?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And do you have you worked on this case basically since that time, along with Detectives Lang, who's in court with us, and Van Adder?
Yes, sir.
All right, sir. I want to ask you just questions on 4 quick areas, and we'll be in and out, hopefully. We saw a video taken by Mr. Willie Ford earlier today in which a glove, apparently a brown glove, was on a table in the Simpson residence. Have you
Yes.
ever seen that?
Yes, I have, sir.
And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how that brown glove got on that table?
That brown glove got on the table when, right after I had arrived, and Detective Van Adder had left the scene and left me in charge of the scene. Went upstairs, and during the course of my search of Mr. Simpson's bedroom and his master closet, the big walk-in closet, I located a singular glove that was located in the chest of drawers. I secured it and kept it with me, and it was inadvertently put on a stand downstairs, and I believe it was in the living room area.
So inadvertently, you put it on the table and was left there, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And then Mr. Ford came along and just photographed it, is that right, or videoed it?
Yes, sir, later on in the afternoon.
All right. And you've seen that, so we were talking about the same glove downstairs, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
All right, sir. Now, in the course of your duties in this case, sir, and you told us about June 13th, you had occasion to search through Mr. Simpson's premises and at some point go into the bedroom, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And did you at some point have occasion to go into the bathroom?
I did, yes, sir.
And in the bathroom area, did you have occasion to look inside a hamper that's located in Mr. Simpson's bathroom there?
I did, yes, sir.
And did you have occasion to take some clothes out of that hamper?
I did, yes, sir.
And did you have occasion to look at those clothes?
That's correct, yes, sir.
In fact, the clothes were taken out of the hamper and then they were kind of like put on the bathtub area, is that correct?
Somewhere, yes, sir.
All right. They'd been in the hamper, and per your instructions, you had them taken out of the hamper, is that correct?
No, not per my instructions. I removed them myself.
Okay. So you removed the clothes yourself?
That's correct,
You
yes,
took
sir.
them and you looked through the hamper and took them all out, did you?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And after you took these clothes out of the hamper, you had some photographs taken of them?
That's correct, yes,
So
sir.
the photographs we've seen are of the clothes after they were taken out of the hamper, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Were any of those clothes that were in that hamper seized at all?
No, sir.
Did you have occasion to also look into Mr. Simpson's closet, the main closet off the bedroom?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And did you look through the clothes and Mr. Simpson's clothes that were located therein, did you?
Yes, sir.
And were any of those clothes seized at all?
No, sir.
Do you recall that at some point Detective Lang had a pair of tennis shoes, Reebok tennis shoes? Were you there when that happened?
No, sir, I was not.
So at least at the time that you left before Lang left, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so what time did you leave that day, do you recall?
I left around 6:30, 6:35 in the evening.
Before Detective Lang left?
Yes, sir.
All right. And at least when you left, you had not seized any of the clothes located inside the Simpson residence, right?
The only item that was seized in my direction were the socks, sir.
All right. Now, with regard, other than that, you hadn't seized anything else?
No, sir.
All right. You didn't seize any clothes taken out of the hamper?
That's correct, sir.
You didn't seize any clothes from the closet?
That's correct, sir.
And the brown glove that you had on the table that you'd inadvertently left on the table downstairs, did you do anything regarding the brown glove?
Yes, sir. That particular item, after a conversation I had with Detective Lang and Van Adder, was returned to the location I had recovered it from.
I know what you did with it, you took it back upstairs, is that
That's
right?
correct, yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Now, what time did you arrive at the location that day, Detective?
It was about 12:10, 12:15 in the afternoon, sir.
Now, in connection with your investigation of this case, did you have occasion to go to Chicago, Illinois?
Yes, sir.
And when did you go to Chicago?
I went,
Let
Ju-
me
oh,
ask you this. Did you go to Chicago on more than one occasion? Sorry.
yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk about the first time you went to Chicago.
All right. You want to know when I?
Yeah,
when
when
I
was
left?
that, sir?
I left, I believe it was June 15th, and returned June 17th in 1994.
All right. So you left on Wednesday and you came back around that Friday, is that correct?
Friday evening, yes, sir.
And were you accompanied by any other police officers, Los Angeles police officers, when you went there?
My partner, Cliff LaFall.
Cliff LaFall?
Yeah, Lefall.
All right. And in the course of the time you spent in Chicago, you were investigating on this case also, were you not?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And on or about June 17th, did you have occasion to go to Chicago Police Department laboratory?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And did you at that point take custody of some items that were in the possession of the Chicago Police Department?
Yes, sir.
And among those items, did you take custody of a broken glass?
I did, yes, sir.
And did you take custody of some bedding?
Yes, sir.
Did you take custody of a towel?
Yes, sir.
Did you see some red spots on that towel? Yes. Red spots? You see red spots on the towel?
I never personally examined the items we recovered, no, sir.
Right. You've seen photographs of those items, have you?
I did, yes, sir.
And you've seen the items yourself, haven't you?
I have not seen the items at all other than the photographs, sir.
Now, in looking at the photographs, you saw that there was some red substance on the towels, did you not?
Sustain.
Well, now, with regard to these items that were picked up in Chicago, tell us what else you picked up in Chicago at that time relating to this case. Well, let's strike that. Let me ask you this. You picked up towels, is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Picked up a broken glass,
That's correct, sir.
picked up some bedding,
That's correct, sir.
and there have been photographs taken of those various items, have there?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And these items are all kept in a box now somewhere at SID or LAPD?
I believe so, yes, sir.
All right. Have you seen these items in the recent past at all?
No, sir.
When's the last time you saw those items that you brought back on June 17th?
Sustain, rephrase the question.
Have you ever seen those items since you brought them back on June 17th?
Overruled.
No, sir, I have not.
Okay, well, tell us what you did. You picked them up in Chicago Police Department, the laboratory, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
What'd you do with them at that point?
Hand carried them back to Los Angeles and booked them into the crime lab property room at Piper Tech.
The Piper Tech here at downtown Los Angeles?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And have you seen them since that time?
No, sir.
So what date did you book them into Piper Tech?
That would have been the 17th or the 18th of June of 1994.
After you got back here.
That's correct,
Is
yes.
that correct? Any other items in that box you haven't told us about in our questioning here?
I don't believe, I believe you've covered most of the items, yes, sir. But as to specific items other than what you just mentioned, no, I don't have a recollection of.
All right. And those items, as far as you know today, are still over at Piper Tech?
I believe that Detective Lang picked them up for your purposes, I believe.
Well, he did bring them a couple of days ago for us to take a look at them.
I believe so, yes,
All
sir.
right. Are they still here, or are they back over there, do you know?
I believe they're still here, sir.
All right. May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Detective, what time did you say you arrived at 360 North Rockingham?
It was between 12:15, 12:20 in the afternoon.
Okay. And you met Detective Van Adder, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And where were you when you met Detective Van Adder initially?
I believe I arrived prior to his arrival, and he arrived a few minutes later, and we met out by the front door, or right in the foyer. I don't recall exactly where.
Okay. You searched the house that afternoon, is that correct?
Yes, I did, sir.
Okay. Are you acquainted with Willie Ford, a photographer or videographer from SID?
I am, yes, sir.
Okay, you saw him there that afternoon, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Did he arrive sometime after 3 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned during your direct testimony that you saw some socks somewhere in the house. Is
I
that
did,
right?
yes, sir.
Some socks that you caused to be seized?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you see those socks before Mr. Ford arrived?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what time of the day it was that you first saw those socks?
It was between 12:30 and 12:40 that afternoon.
You saw those socks when you went upstairs into the defendant's bedroom, is that right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you told us that you opened a drawer and you recovered a glove, right?
That's correct, yes,
You
sir.
didn't have to open, I'm sorry. You didn't have to open a drawer to locate those socks, did you?
No, sir.
Where were those socks, Detective?
Those socks were located at the foot of the bed in plain view.
They were just laying there.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Are you sure of that, Detective?
Positive.
Why did you seize those socks?
Well, there's two reasons I seized them. One, they appeared to be out of place to me, based on what I had seen in the bathroom, for example. It was fairly neat. And the second was, I felt, based on the fact that they were out of place, that it would be just advisable to pick them up.
The bathroom was neat.
I'm sorry, sir?
You said the bathroom was relatively neat.
Relatively neat, yes, sir.
Let me show you 167 if you'll take a look at your monitor there.
All right, sir.
Is that where the socks were when you saw them?
Yes, sir.
And when you first saw those socks, did you disturb them at all?
No, sir.
You left them right there.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, when you first entered the residence, you saw some blood spots in the foyer. Is that correct?
I did, yes, sir.
And with regard to the glove, you conducted a search of the defendant's closet and master bedroom.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And where was it that you found that single glove?
It was located in, there was two chests of drawers located in Mr. Simpson's walk-in closet, and it would have been the one located against the east wall. I believe it would have been the south side of the master closet.
And you only found one such glove, is that right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
You didn't find a mate for that glove.
No, sir, I did not.
Okay, and you thought that was significant, didn't you?
Overruled.
I'm sorry.
You can answer the question.
Yes, I did feel it was significant.
And why is that?
Well, based on
Overruled.
based on the information I had, and the fact that the only information I had as far as gloves were concerned was one that had been recovered. I didn't know another one had been recovered. I just felt that it was a wise thing to seize it, hold on to it, and show it to the investigating officers, and let them make the final determination as to whether it should be booked or not.
glove had been seized at Rockingham? Was that your information?
Yes, sir.
Had you visited the Bundy scene at that point?
I had been at the Bundy scene, yes, sir.
Okay. Had you reviewed the bodies?
Yes, sir.
Did you know whether or not the gloves seized at Bundy and the ones seized at Rockingham were matching gloves?
No, I had no clue.
Overruled.
I had no clue to that, sir.
Now, the glove that you removed from the defendant's chest, was that an heiress glove?
I don't believe so. It may have been, but I'm not too sure.
Okay. But it was a size large glove, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Not an extra large, but a large. Correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you thought the glove was significant, so you kept it in your possession, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And then you went downstairs.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Why did you place that glove on the table?
Well, I knew that there was blood spots, or what appeared to be blood spots at the in the foyer, and I was just trying to look for additional spots on the wood floor, and there appeared to be several trailing from the foyer and past to the den area. And in trying to examine them, I put my notebook down on the floor as well as the glove on the little table there to take a better look at it, that's all.
Okay. And that glove was videotaped by Mr. Ford as it lay on that table, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And that glove was also photographed by the crime scene photographer Mike Wilson, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And in fact, there was a crime scene photographer at Rockingham that day, right?
He was there when I arrived, yes, sir.
And so he was there at least 3.5 hours before Willie Ford arrived, is that correct?
Minimum, yes, sir.
And the photograph you just saw here a few moments ago, People's 167, the photograph of the sock in the bedroom, that was taken by the photographer, wasn't it?
It certainly was, yes, sir.
Is there any question, any doubt in your mind, sir, that those socks were there when you walked up the stairs at around 12:15 or so that day?
No question in my mind, no, sir.
Matter of fact, you directed the photographer to take certain photographs, is that right?
I did, yes, sir.
And that included the photograph we just saw, 167.
Yes, sir.
Who requested the video recorder in Mr. Ford?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't understand the question.
Well, did you ask Mr. Ford or someone to come out and videotape the premises?
One of the detectives, Detective Harper, who was at the scene, came to me and suggested,
Sustained. Question is who requested?
Detective Harper did, sir.
Okay. And so you knew that someone was going to come out and videotape the premises, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And the purpose in having that person come out was not to assist in the crime scene investigation, was it?
That's correct, sir.
It wasn't to assist in the prosecution of this defendant or anyone else, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Why was that person called out?
He was called out in the event there was civil litigation down the line or allegations of theft or breakage of valuables.
You wanted to make sure that you documented the condition of the premises as it was when you left, is that right?
Overruled.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Did you direct Mr. Ford in terms of where to shoot or videotape?
No, sir, I did not.
Do you know whether or not the socks were collected prior to Mr. Ford's arrival inside the master bedroom?
They were collected prior to Mr. Ford's arrival upstairs and in my presence.
Do you recall who collected those socks?
It was Mr. Fung.
Now, you've testified regarding this issue before, is that correct?
At a motion, yes, sir.
You testified here in this courtroom on March 31, 1995. Is that right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And Mr. Cochran was here?
Yes, sir, he was.
With regard to the items that you brought back from Chicago, you've never, well, strike that. You obtained a box, is that right, from the Chicago Police Department?
No, no box. They were handed, when I signed for them, they were in bags.
Okay. And were these bags sealed?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to see inside the bags?
No, sir.
And you were given an inventory?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And that inventory was supposed to relate to you the contents of those bags, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
You have no personal knowledge of the contents of those bags, do you?
No, sir, I do not.
You've never seen them.
That's correct, sir.
And with regard to any broken glass you may have brought to Los Angeles, you don't know whether or not there was any blood on that glass, do you?
That's correct, sir.
And that's because you never saw it.
That's correct.
And you have no personal knowledge as to how that glass was broken, do you?
No, I do not, sir.
You have no personal knowledge as to where that glass was seized.
That's correct, sir.
You weren't in Chicago on the morning of June 13, were you?
No, I was not, sir.
Or the evening of June 13?
That's correct, sir.
How long have you been a detective, sir?
12 years, sir.
How long have you been a police officer?
23.
Thank you.
Now, Detective Luper, with regard to, let's work in reverse order. With regard to the items that you brought back from Chicago, although you have no personal knowledge of those particular items, you still brought them back to Los Angeles in relation to the Simpson case, didn't you?
That's correct, yes, sir.
You got them from the Chicago Police Department, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Flew back here with them with your partner LaFall,
That's
right?
correct.
And you then booked them over at the Piper Tech to be held for this case. Isn't that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
And what you have seen, you've seen photographs of those particular items that were seized in Chicago. Isn't that right?
Sustain.
Well,
Foundation.
all right. Have you seen photographs in connection with the items that were allegedly in that box?
Sustain.
Well, the photographs that you saw, where did you see the photographs?
I saw them in Chicago.
And these photographs you saw in Chicago had supposedly been taken by the Chicago Police Department?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And these photographs were taken of the items that were seized. Isn't that correct?
Your Honor, there's
Yes.
Sustain.
Well, tell us about the photographs that you saw in Chicago.
Counsel, the only thing he can testify to is the chain of custody, and he brought him back.
All right, you brought him back?
He brought him back.
Chicago then. All right, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. But you then brought him back, right?
Yes, sir.
Did somebody tell you to bring these items back?
Yes, sir.
Who told you to bring them back?
Detective Lang.
But you also were an experienced detective yourself, and you knew to bring them back anyway, didn't you?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you had a phone conversation with Lang, and then you brought them back, right?
No, I had no phone conversation with Detective Lang regarding that. I knew that I was going to go back to Chicago to pick them up. I was directed to do that.
All right, so you went there specifically to pick up these items from the Chicago Police Department.
That's
Right.
correct, yes, sir.
All right, and so you picked them up, you brought them back here to Los Angeles, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Detective. Now, with regard to the residence of Mr. Simpson on this occasion, you have indicated that you were upstairs in the bedroom and that you saw the condition of Mr. Simpson's bedroom. Did you not, during the course of the day, after you arrived there at 12 o'clock or so?
Yes, sir.
And I want to show you, I want to approach and I want to show you a couple of photographs. One is People's 167 now in evidence, Your Honor, and one is one that I'd like to mark as a defendant's next in order. Court, please.
1257,
1257. I'd like to approach, Your Honor.
please. 56.
56, thank you.
Right.
I'm going to approach the witness by my, Your Honor. I want to show you, first of all, and I'll put this on the Elmo, I guess, People's 167, and I want you to see if you've ever seen that photograph before.
Yes, I have.
And you see on the bed there's something that looks like some kind of straps. You ever seen that day?
Yes, sir.
And what were those? What are those straps?
Those were luggage straps or shoulder straps you would put on luggage.
All right, were those seized at all?
No, sir.
Were those moved at all?
Yes, they were.
And who moved them?
I did.
And with regard, I want you to take a look at 1256 now. See that photograph, 1256?
Yes, sir.
And are the luggage straps depicted there also?
Yes, sir.
And they're in a different position, aren't they?
That's correct. One of them is.
And was that because you moved it?
That's correct, yes.
And you moved it prior to having the photograph taken or after the photograph was taken?
I don't understand your
All right.
question.
On this photograph here, 167, none of the straps are hanging down on the bed. Is that correct?
Okay, I understand. Yes, that's correct.
And on the other photograph, defendant's 1256 now, one of the straps is hanging down the bed. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Over the side of
Over the side of the bed. Thank you, Your Honor. And does that indicate that you had moved it at that point?
No, it had not been moved as of yet. The 3x5 that you are showing me was prior to me moving it, and the other one, the larger photograph, was after it was moved.
All right. Now, and look.
Excuse me, Counsel. Record should reflect that the smaller photograph that Detective Luper referred to was 1256.
Thank you, Your Honor. 1256. It appears that in 1256, the smaller photograph, something is hanging down the side of the bed, does it not?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Was that the condition you found it in?
That's the way it was found, yes, sir.
And then you then moved it up on the bed to take a picture of it?
No, I moved it so I could look underneath the bed itself, and then it was photographed.
I says you actually moved this yourself.
Yes, sir.
All right. And so if we wanted to demonstrate that for the jury, we can show how it was found and how it was moved by you. Is that right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Let's look at 1256, first of all. Now, that's the photograph, defendant's 1256. It's your testimony that you found this luggage strap, as you described it, over the side of the bed like that, hanging down toward the floor. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you then moved that luggage strap.
That's correct, yes, sir.
All right. And at what time did you see the luggage strap in the condition is indicated in 1256?
12:35, 12:40 in the afternoon.
Were you the first police officer to go upstairs that day?
I was the only police officer who went upstairs that, to my knowledge, to that point. We didn't have a search warrant.
All right, and you came back pursuant to search warrant?
That's correct,
Now,
yes,
there
sir.
had been other police officers in that house early that morning, have there not been?
I was not aware of that.
You weren't aware that Detective Furman, Detectives Lang, Detective Van Adder were in the house early that morning? Weren't you aware they were there earlier?
No, sir, I was not aware that they were inside the house prior to that, no.
You didn't know that Detective Phillips was there also?
That's correct.
You weren't aware that 4 of your brethren had been there early that morning?
I knew they'd been there. I knew they had been there, but I didn't know where they had been in the house, if they had been in the house.
The question was, did you know that 4 LAPD officers, whose names I just gave, Phillips, Van Adder, Furman, and Lang, had been inside Rockingham early that morning of June 13th, 1994?
Yes,
So you were aware of that?
I was aware that they were on the premises, yes.
All right, all right. As to whether or not they'd come upstairs at some point, you don't know, do you?
I have no idea.
All right. Now, with regard to 1256, which we've now shown, you then moved the luggage handles as depicted in 167. Is that correct? So if we look at 167, we notice now the strap is no longer hanging over the side of the bed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you say you moved that so that you could look under the bed?
Yes, sir.
Now, At the time, sir, that you said you made these observations at about 12 o'clock or shortly after 12 o'clock, is that correct?
The my initial walkthrough, or my first walkthrough, was around 12:35, 12:40, and then I was in and out of that room up until I left.
All right, and so that you made your initial observations, and then did you go in the bathroom area that we talked about before?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you indicated and described for Mr. Darden that the place was rather neat, is that correct?
Yeah, rather neat.
And you didn't see things strung out all over the floor there, did you?
No, sir, I did not.
In fact, when you went in the bathroom, the clothes that ultimately were taken out of the hamper were done so by you to look at them closely and inspect them.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And so as an investigator, you were looking for any kind of evidence in this case, isn't that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you looked through the entire hamper, and you looked through Mr. Simpson's clothes closet, and you didn't seize anything, did you?
That's correct, sir.
And even with regards to this glove that you, Mr. Darden asked you opened a drawer and you saw this brown glove, right?
Yes, sir.
And you, at that time, you told Mr. Darden that glove was a large?
Believe it was a large, yes,
It
sir.
wasn't extra large, was it?
Looked like a large to me. I
right,
couldn't
well-
tell you the difference.
Well, that's the point. Did you look inside the glove to see what the label may have said on that glove?
No, sir.
So when you told Mr. Darden it was a large, you just said that based upon looking at it, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
You didn't look at any label inside there, right?
That's correct, sir.
All right. So you handled this brown glove and you brought it downstairs, and then you inadvertently put that glove on a table, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you kind of forgot about it for a while, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
All right. And so that we're clear, at the end of the day, or before you left, you took that glove back upstairs and put it where it belonged, right?
Not after the end of the day. I would say I had it back in my possession around 4:30, close to 5 o'clock.
Now I'm saying by the end of the day, did you take the glove back upstairs at some point?
Yes, sir.
Did you put it back in the,
I put it back in where I'd found it.
put it back where you got it from?
That's correct.
You didn't leave there with it, did you?
No, sir.
All right. And now, with regard to Mr. Willie Ford, were you walking around with Mr. Ford at the time he was taking these videos?
No, sir.
Were you outside the house at that point?
No, sir.
Where were you?
I was inside.
Where were you up when Mr. Ford was taking his videos?
Could have been in several locations. I know I was upstairs in the bedroom and bathroom area, and I was also downstairs and upstairs and downstairs both.
You're still doing other work, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Would you agree that Mr. Ford's testimony that he arrived about 3:10?
I would have to look at the crime scene log, but if it's on there and documented that way, I would have to agree.
Well, if he arrived about 3:10, would it refresh your recollection that he left about 4:30?
That's correct. If it's documented that way, it would refresh my
All right.
recollection.
And I'll be glad to show that to you if I might.
Yes.
So I'll just direct you to Ford and save some time here.
All right, sir. Yes, sir, I see the entry. It is 3:10, and he does indicate that he leaves at 4:30.
All right, you have no reason to quarrel with those particular times, do you?
No, sir, I do not.
Now, Dennis Fung, are you aware that Dennis Fung... yeah, maybe perhaps we should approach just for a second. All right. With regard, sir, to Dennis Fung, you knew Dennis Fung prior to that day? Or did you?
I've only seen him at maybe one additional crime scene.
So you knew he was a criminalist for the Los Angeles Police Department?
I did, yes, sir.
And you saw him there on that particular date?
Yes, sir.
And did you see him on various occasions collecting various items?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And in connection with the log of the times that items were actually picked up, refer you to Defendant's Exhibit 1091, I want to ask you whether or not you ever at any time have seen the log of the collection of various items, okay?
Okay.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want to ask you to take a look, first of all, at this log, and then I'll ask you to look down specifically to items collected, and I want you to look specifically at item. I'm just asking to look at specifically, Your Honor. You look at items 12, 13, and 14. Just look down at those. Have you looked at the log now?
Yes, sir.
You recognize that as a log kept by the members of the Special Investigations Division regarding the collection of items at a crime scene?
Sustained. Phrase the question.
All right, do you recognize that particular log and how it's used, sir?
Or will
I've never seen a log used like this before.
Have you ever seen a log used by the members of the Special Investigation Division at all?
No. I mean, I've never paid much attention to how they record their evidence.
Do you know who collected these socks allegedly on that day?
What I saw was Mr. Fong collecting them.
All right, and what time of day did Mr. Fung collect these socks? Well, without looking at the log.
Oh, well, there's no time on the log anyway, so it had to be in between 3:30, 3:45, somewhere in that general area.
3:30, 3:45?
Yes, sir.
Now, if...
Objection.
Your Honor, I haven't asked the question yet.
I know. If it was
Huh? If, I want to phrase this question, Your Honor, if I might. May I phrase the question?
proceed.
Now, with regard to Dennis Fung, have you had occasion to see his testimony in this court before this jury regarding the time that he picked these socks up, allegedly?
No, sir, I have not.
Have you had occasion to talk with Mr. Fung at all regarding the time these socks were picked up?
No, sir, I have not.
Are you aware of whether or not the foyer blood drops, the socks were picked up sequentially or in order, from a standpoint of time, one being first and the other being second, and something was third? Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of it.
Now, your estimate is that Mr. Fung picked these socks up at what time was that now?
About 3:30, 3:45 in that general area in the afternoon.
And is that, you have that written in any report anywhere?
No, sir, I do not.
Who do you think would have the best recollection of what the time these socks are picked up, you or Mr. Fung?
Objection.
Well, I can ask that.
Sustained.
Well, may I ask you another way, Your Honor? Who do you think would be in the best position to know what time these socks were picked up? The person who collected them allegedly, or you, sir?
Same objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, I have another question I'd like to ask, if I might, at this point.
Do you want to approach before
Yes,
you
I
do
think,
that?
yes. Luper, do you know what time Dennis Fung collected, or Dennis Fung or Andrea Mazzola, collected the spots in the foyer?
Not without looking at their notes.
Would you like to look at their log?
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, if that refreshes recollection, I should be able to ask them.
You can use it if it will refresh his recollection.
He hasn't testified that he ever knew.
May I proceed? Will you look at this and see what, if you can look at this and refresh your recollections, what time they picked up the spots in the foyer?
According to their log, it's
Sustained.
Now, the proper way, I guess, Your Honor, is having looked at the log, does that refresh your recollection as to the time that Mr. Fung or Ms. Mazzola picked up the, collected the spots in the foyer?
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Yes. Can you answer that?
it would appear by their log that they,
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Phrase the question.
All right, again, I'll rephrase it again. With regard to the document I placed before you, is your memory refreshed as to the time that Dennis Fung or Andrea Mazzola collected these spots in the foyer at Rockingham on June 13th, 1994, in the afternoon?
Overruled.
the log indicate,
Yes.
Now, first of all,
No,
is this
question, wait a minute. Detective Luper, the question is, is your personal recollection refreshed as, after having read the log, as to when those spots were recovered in the foyer?
no, sir.
All right, so you have no way of knowing at all.
No, sir.
Do you know whether or not that the foyer spots were collected prior to the time that you say the socks were collected?
Your Honor, the record reflects the witness looking at the log.
Overruled.
Will we move that?
Yeah, would you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Temperature.
I don't know how they were, if they were done in a certain order or sequentially. I know that Ms. Mazzola and Dennis Fung were working pretty much.
All right, next question.
All right, so there's an objection to your question by Mr. Darden, so I didn't get a chance to finish hearing it. So you don't know, I guess my question was, do you know whether or not the spots in the foyer were collected prior to anything being collected upstairs?
I don't know.
You don't know, and the form that I've given you does not refresh your recollection?
No, sir.
And you've not spoken with either Mazzola or Fung about their testimony
That's
for this
correct.
jury?
That's correct.
And you don't know the times that they said?
That's correct.
Do you know the time that Mr. Willie Ford videoed Mr. Simpson's bedroom and there were no socks at the foot of that bed? Do you know that time?
Objection.
Overruled.
Do you know that time, sir?
I did not look at my watch on that particular day to be specific, no, sir.
All right, well, you weren't in the bedroom at the time Mr. Ford was videoing the area of Mr. Simpson's bedroom.
No,
were
I
you?
was not in the bedroom.
You were someplace else in the house, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
All right. He was accompanied by some other people, not you, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Overruled.
Now, you mentioned, sir, that when you were downstairs, one of the reasons that you had inadvertently put down the glove that we talked about was because you were trying to follow some blood spots or wood spots or something?
They appeared to be red discoloration on the wood floor, and they appeared to be spots that were not one right after another, but fairly far apart from each other.
Did you pursue these spots?
Yes, sir, I did.
You found out later that was not blood, was it?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So it was kind of like a trail of no blood, right?
That's correct, yes,
All
sir.
right. Now speaking of that, by the way, as a detective, as the first person up those stairs,
Objection, that is simple fact not
well,
necessary.
Sustained.
Counsel's absolutely correct. As the police officer who went up the stairs after 12 o'clock on that date, you didn't see any blood on the stairs going up there, did you?
I didn't see any, no, sir.
You didn't see any blood on the carpet, Mr. Simpson's bedroom as you go in there, did you?
No, sir, I did not.
Now, with regard to these socks that you had seized, you didn't see any blood on those socks either, did you?
I didn't get close enough to examine them.
Is your answer you didn't see any blood on the socks?
No, sir.
And it's your testimony that you had these socks seized, or asked to have them seized, whatever time they were seized, because they were out of place, is that right?
They were out of place, and it seemed like a very good idea.
All right, and you had them seized, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you never got very close to them at that time?
No, sir.
And so I may have asked you this, you did not have the straps on the bed seized at any point, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Those were just left there, is that correct?
That's right, sir.
Have just a moment, Chairman.
Certainly.
Detective Luper. Again, with regard to Detective, strike that. With regard to criminalists Fung and Mazzola, did you notice that as they were doing their work at Rockingham that day, they had kind of a clipboard or something of that nature where they were logging and writing down things as they would pick up various items? Do you remember seeing that?
Yes, I did.
And so that if you would see them at one particular area, they would then write something down on a piece of paper, although you don't know what they were writing, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
In your experience as